Okay, this is Richard Hobbs. It's around 2:30 on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2018. Now this is the second part of this video. This is a letter. The first page here is this a 10-day notice to cure and a 30-day notice to remove. You are in violation of the following. And I said what that was in the first part of this video. This is the second. The second part, it says, you are hereby notified the premises known as 622 South Broadway, also known as 1-30-50 on the official tax map of the city of Yonkers, had been inspected by Patrick Losco, Senior Housing Inspector of the Department, on 4/19/2018 at, then there's a space and a period. Please take notice that in judgment of the Department of Buildings, the above captioned premises structure is dangerous, unsafe, and a nuisance. Now, I don't know how they differentiate my apartment from the entire building. I agree that this is true about the entire building, and I think it's probably the fault of the management of the building for managing it improperly for the last so many years. But I don't know. The following unsafe and dangerous conditions found to exist at the above premises at the date and time of inspection. On April 19, 2018, at 9:30 a.m., the following violations conditions were observed. Apartment number 6, Richard Hobbs. Kitchen area. Accumulation of storage boxes and debris, several items being stored on top of stove. Use of a hot plate with storage items next to hot plate, fire hazard. Sink, no access from storage. Entire apartment full of storage and debris from floor to ceiling, in every room fire hazard. Entire apartment needs to be cleaned. Reinspection May 10, 2018. Please take notice that the aforementioned conditions violate the Yonkers Fire and Building Code 56-78 and the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code 9-N.Y.C.R.R-1153.1A- removal or repair any building or part of a building or other structure which is a danger to life and safety as a result of structural instability shall be demolished or made safe. Well, that structural instability is the landlord's fault, not my fault, and it's the fact that the landlord does not provide structural stability to the apartment, that there are problems there. There's also a problem of the fact that until March of 2018, I was in a nursing home for a year, during which time I had limited access to the apartment because I had to be in a nursing home. And I had a lot of problems with my health, but during that time, there was at least one, if not two, times when the government paid for the apartment to be cleaned, unquote. And the problem in the apartment is that the landlord has not provided the things that need to be provided according to any lease. The area over the kitchen sink has had water and debris come down from the ceiling since I moved into the building. It's always coming down. It comes down in buckets. Sometimes I go to the sink and the sink is full of water from upstairs and plaster and debris the landlord has not. Management building has not provided me with a sink and an area that's right. Now, I have a problem because I can't lift heavy boxes. So instead of putting a few things in one box, or many things in one box, I have to break them in half or more and put them into separate boxes. And maybe I'm wrong, but if I have bins, and I have some things in the bins, and the bins are stacked on top of each other in a neat order, how does that create a fire hazard? The things are stored there. They're there. They're not flammable or contagious. They're being stored, and some of the bins are empty. I have them there to fill a space, and I have been getting rid of a lot of things over the last 5 years that I moved into that apartment. And every year, Section 8 passes the apartment and passes the inspection. And they can't be passing the inspection if it isn't right. But they do. And every year, the landlord fixes the ceiling over the sink, and the landlord fixes the ceiling over the bathtub just in time for the inspectors to pass it. And then a month later, it's leaking again, and no matter who I call or what I do, they don't straighten it out. And I don't know why, and I don't know what to do about it. I've told the landlord for years about the problems that are there, and the landlord and the supers have not helped. The supers are more helpful than the landlord, but the landlord tells them not to help me, and then they don't. So, for example, I have a refrigerator. The landlord provides me with a refrigerator. It's had one shelf in it since I moved into the apartment. Never 3 shelves, 1 shelf. And you have a refrigerator, and there's shelves in your refrigerator. And you can put the stuff in there, and what happens in my refrigerator is the food all gets ruined because I can't spread it out, and I have to pile food on top of food, and that ruins it. And if there is a smell coming from my apartment, it's because I can't get washed because there's sewage in my bathtub, and I can't do anything about the horrible smell that has come out of the walls because the walls were rotting. And there's evidence of that because they had to come while I was in the nursing home, and they spent months. They tore out the wall along the kitchen sink, and they tore it down, and they had pipes out, and they changed pipes. But the leaking in that building isn't coming from the pipes. The smell might have been, but it's coming because the landlord doesn't maintain the roof properly, and water comes down into the building, through the building when it rains, and what the landlord and management are doing is they're failing to put into the building the money that they get from the rents to maintain the building and keep it good. And I don't know what they do with the money they get. Maybe they don't get enough money to run the building. I don't know. We'll find out, because we are going to do something, illegal action that will cause them to show their books to everyone. And we'll attempt to prove that what's going on in that building is that they're mismanaging it with the goal of having the government end up taking the building over and pay for all the loss, and they'll just abandon it. And they'll have made plenty of money. Maybe they'll be dead by then or whatever, but it doesn't matter. What's happening is wrong. Now, getting back to these specific areas, I didn't have an accumulation of storage boxes and debris. Several items being stored on top of the stove. Well, I don't use my stove. The stove is a gas stove. I do not use it. I don't want gas in my apartment. To me, gas is dangerous. Fortunately, the stove is one that doesn't have a pilot light. When you turn the gas on, it clicks, 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 and it ignites the gas. And I'm glad for that, because now the problem is that I don't need a gas stove, and I don't want a gas stove, and I don't want to pay for the gas, which I'm having to pay every month for 5 years, because Section 8 insists that I have gas, or they won't pass the inspection. But the gas cost me $250 $50 to $270 a year for gas I don't use. I mean, maybe in the 5 years I was there until last year, maybe I used it 3 times a year to boil a pot of water once or cook a turkey or something. And that was it. I didn't need a stove. Now, they say here that I have a hot plate with storage items next to hot plate. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Patrick Losco, Sr., doesn't know what he's talking about. He's either uneducated or he's uninformed. And first I want to say this. I've never seen this before that I know of. I don't remember ever seeing these issues listed and given to me. Maybe they were, and I've forgotten them. But I don't think I have. I'd like to know when they showed this to me. I think the first time I've seen this is today, when I opened it up at the doctor's office here, eye doctor's. Now, it says reinspection May 10th, 2018. So what happened on May 10th, 2018 in that reinspection? I want to know. It's now August. I don't have a hot plate in the apartment. I don't use a hot plate. I would never use a hot plate because they're dangerous. I have in the kitchen 2 induction cooktops. That's what they are. They're not hot plates. I don't know if you know what an induction food cooking surface is, but it is not a fire hazard. It's the safest way that you could possibly cook food anywhere, under any circumstances that I'm aware of. It uses magnetism to heat the pot that's on top of it. It doesn't heat up itself. The only way it gets heat is eventually, if you cook something long enough, the heat comes from the pot back into the surface. But it's not going to start a fire. Second of all, I don't have anything stored around it or on top of it to speak with, except if I can't put this. I mean, look, give me a sink that I can use that doesn't have plaster dropping down from the top. So every day when I get up, I go into the kitchen, I got to clean the sink of the plaster and the sewage that came down from above before I can use the sink for 5 years. So the induction burner works very well for me. It uses 1/10 of the electricity of a hot plate or a stove, electric stove. It's much more less expensive than gas, in my opinion. And I am an Eagle Scout. I know what's healthy and safe and unsafe. I've been involved in these things all my life. There's not a fire hazard because of a hot plate. And I don't know what sink no access from storage means. What does sink no access from storage mean? An entire apartment full of storage and debris from floor to ceiling in every room, fire hazard. Entire apartment needs to be cleaned. Reinspection May 10, 2018. So, something's going on here wrong, and it isn't me. Now, yes, I have a lot of things in my apartment. That's not a crime. For anyone to call me a hoarder, when I'm done with all this, I will sue them for libel and for slander. I don't know, because they're using the word hoarder, and they're using it to suggest that I've done something evil or I'm mean or I'm dangerous. And I'm not a hoarder. I live the way I live, which is the way I have to live given my financial situation and my circumstances. And the landlady is unhappy because she said someone who lived there before had the nicest apartment in the building. Well, he may have had the nicest apartment in the building, but that was him and I'm me. She can't tell me how to live in my apartment. And what she's doing here is sort of like a hate crime. she decided for some reason after renting to me that I don't know of, she decided to get rid of me. And she's been trying ever since. But she has dirty hands, and the landlord, the owners are wrong, and there's something wrong with the City of Yonkers Department of Housing and Buildings. And I don't know who to complain to about it. I'm going to keep complaining to the FBI and to the state and to the city and the county, although it seems to be a political issue because they're all Democrats, all run by Democrats, it seems, and they have the control, and I don't know, I don't get it, I don't understand it. Instead of the City of Yonkers making sure this woman has heat there at night for the last 5 years, and instead of them making sure that she's maintaining the building so that it doesn't become dilapidated and become something she has to abandon, instead of making her do that, they're doing this to me. And this doesn't make sense. If he inspected the apartment on 4/19/2018, and this letter was written on 6/13/2018, that's after May 10th, 2018. So there's something on the surface of this paper, there's something that just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know why it is, but I did file a lawsuit against the landlord and these people in the federal court. And the federal court didn't let me go through with it, I think because of venue. I don't know, because the time when I did that, I was really blind. I couldn't figure out how to get into the local courts and get them to deal with the issue. So I went to the federal court because I know how to file pro se there and in forma pauperis, in the form of a poor person. And I will find the response sooner or later when I'm not better yet. I'm still not well. I have a cast on my foot. I'm not healing well. One reason I'm not healing well is because I can't store food in my refrigerator right. The refrigerator is supposed to be provided to me. And in the last 5 years, after 2 years of having a refrigerator that only had one shelf in it, and after asking and asking, I can show you that they brought shelves that were too large or too small because they're still in the kitchen. But they didn't bring shelves that fit. And so apparently this isn't a top priority. Apparently they prefer to throw me out and get another 3 months rent. They get a month's rent, a month's security, and another month's rent because they rented it to you and they're acting as their own landlord, their own real estate people. So if they can move 2 or 3 tenants a month, they can make all this extra money. Now, I don't know, maybe they need that extra money to pay the bills, or maybe what they're doing is wrong, but they're not paying the bills. They're not paying for the heat for the nights in the winter, and that can be proven by looking at their heating bill and comparing it to comparable heating bills of other buildings that are maintaining the heat at night. And they are all over the world, all over the country. And it's going to be very clear that they're not using as much oil as other people are, unless when they do have the oil on and the heat on, there's no insulation at all, and the heat goes up through the building so fast into the sky that they can't afford to run the heat all the time like they should by law. But there's something wrong going on here, and we'll go through this until we figure out a way to help them. Goodbye.